But that's enough positivity. All right, we've been too happy for this first hour and 40 minutes. Now it's time.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, now it's time to be disappointed. Because 2022 was not all sunshine and rainbows and Deathloop. Um, there were definitely some disappointments of this year, and I think I went first last time and South went first last time, so I think it's Robert's turn to go first this time.
Okay. So there's no surprise that I'm a big fan of Persona 5, or just the Persona games in general, lately expanded to Mega 10 or Shin Megami Tensei. Um and another game in one of Atlus's franchises came out this year, Soul Hackers 2. Um it's a game I've always had some kind of interest in. I just love the aesthetic. The gameplay looks pretty fun. I just liked the character designs a lot too. I was like, okay, I want to try this game out and just kind of check out one of Atlus's other games that aren't like Persona or Shin Megami Tensei. So like, okay, I give it a try. I really enjoy what it has at first, but as I play the game more, it just became more and more tedious to play. Like the core gameplay loop is just a dungeon crawler, right? So you're running through dungeons, exploring, and getting into turn-based fights. Um, the dungeon design is just very boring, and for a game that 90% of what you're going to be doing is exploring dungeons, having bad dungeon design is one of the worst things you can do with it. Like, it's just a slog trying to, like, explore and, like, get to, like, the boss. And a lot of the fights just get so, like, repetitive. It just kind of becomes a big slog. And if, like, there's any kind of puzzle in the dungeons, they're usually, like, not that well thought out. Like, either the solution is, like, incredibly obvious, or it's just explore this path, find a dead end, turn around, and go find another way. Like, it's not very interesting, and the dungeons only get more and more confusing as the game goes on, to where it's like, I don't know if I could do this anymore,
Yeah.
because the pacing for that is just bad. And there's like another dungeon that's like in the same vein as like Mementos from Persona 5, where as you like progress through the game, you get additional layers of that dungeon, and doing that one gives additional skills and buffs to your party members. So it's like you're incentivized to do that, but it just breaks up the story pace so much. And if you do that dungeon, it makes the main dungeons even easier because there's not like a solid like level for them. So like if you skip the Ion dungeon, what it is, you get like under leveled and you miss out on a lot of abilities. But if you do the Ion dungeon, you get like stupidly overpowered to where it's just not interesting and there's not much of a reason to fight normal enemies in the dungeons. So it just kind of makes a loop of like what's the point, you know?
Yeah. It kind of
It's
it
like
breaks its
I
own
had to put
gameplay
it
loop.
down.
Yeah.
Like, I
Okay,
usually try to finish games, like, if I start them, but this was one that's like, I just don't have the willpower to finish this one anymore.
and I think that's understandable. I'm gonna say this, and I'm scared to say it almost because it's like I know Drew may not be like, who the hell are these people?
Yeah.
I don't want to bring the Mega 10 fans to come in and like start berating Drew, but I'm gonna try to ask for a comparison between Persona 5 Royal and Soul Hackers 2, Robert. So you mentioned dungeon design. Do you mean that like this game basically does this game have like an equivalent of like palaces in Soul Hackers 2?
They're not randomly generated, they're deliberately designed. Um, and
Mhm.
you have this map that's constantly on screen with you that can take up like the space you're running in. So it's just a very confusing UI element on top of like kind of bland dungeon design. So like you
So
see
there's
like this
really
giant labyrinth of like rectangles for your map on top of like just some very like boring like scenery.
So it's nothing as expressive as like the palaces, basically.
Oh
No
hell no.
like crazy music tracks, no art, no artistic design. Okay, and I probably should clarify. In Persona 5 Royal, like there's basically key points in the game where the big kind of draw is the palaces. These are the main dungeons you are tackling in the story, and they always have a theme because the main bad guy of each one kind of have like a particular, I guess, sin about them, and their palace usually reflects that, like, oh, this person's like absurdly greedy, so they have like a bank as their palace, but there's also like other things, and they really mess with like they use a lot of style of like the music and like the art design to be very expressive of like how the palace is a extension of the bad guy and of the ruler. But it sounds like with this game, with Soul Hackers 2, it is it is not that, basically.
The dungeon theme
That's
you usually
this
is like
great
some kind of
idea
muted.
designed for gameplay. Soul Hackers ain't in
It's
it, and Soul Hackers doesn't have any of that.
yeah. So like the
Oof.
music in Persona is very like in your face and like stands out. The music in Soul Hackers 2, like exploring the world, is like this kind of muted piano track, like when you're in the dungeon. So it's like you don't have something like super interesting to listen to. Like it's more thematic, I guess. It kind of brings like some tension to it, but it's not as interesting in my opinion as like a Persona 5 dungeon.
So correct
Maybe. Oh,
correct me.
sorry. One more thing.
Yeah.
I want to add this real quick. So maybe I shouldn't have started with Persona 5, but you play SMT5 last year, Robert?
Yes, I did play SMT5.
How does this game compare to that then? Since that might be a better comparison than Persona.
I liked SMT5 a lot more than Soul Hackers 2. I
And
just thought it
did
was a lot more interesting of a game.
did SMT5 though have like something like its equivalent of like a expressive artistically interesting main dungeons and stuff like that? Would you say that was in SMT5?
It's more of just the overworlds and stuff in 5. There's like a definite theme to it of like just a destroyed Tokyo. Like you can tell this place has been through hell. And like this has been like ravaged, nature's been overrun it. Like a whole area of Tokyo has basically become like a desert. Like there's a lot more of like a visual identity to the areas. And yeah, well the music in the areas may also not be as like interesting as Persona. It just fits the theme and the tone better, and they're a little more memorable too.
It feels like Soul Hacker's two biggest issue compared to like SMT and Persona is it just seems to lack personality is the
Yeah.
big takeaway. I mean, I obviously there's more than just that. Like it sounds like there's issues with its like gameplay loop and just like it seemed to has very copy paste dungeon design. But it sounds like one of the biggest issues is it just lacks a heart to it, like some personality.
Yeah, that's kind of a big thing is like it just doesn't feel as like inspired to me as the other games.
Yeah, that's kind of.
Sorry, Drew, I cut you off.
No, I mean, well, you pretty much just said what I was gonna say. Like, it sounds like if you take like a game like Persona 5, which I'm gonna grant I haven't played it, but it sounds like if you take a game like that and just like take away any personality, the music, anything that gives that game flair, and that's it just becomes bland and unoriginal. But you guys pretty much already got on that point, and nothing more I can add to that. So is that it? Is there anything else you would like
Yeah.
to ask about it, Seth, before I move on?
All I have to say is like, man, I'm a little sad to hear that because like I was debating like playing Soul Hackers 2. I was even thinking of like trying it out before I got back on my bullshit and started Persona 5 Royal for like the third friggin' time.
Yeah.
Um, because
I
it came
remember
to
we were
Xbox.
like talking about it a lot, so I was like trying to keep you updated on my playthrough because I'm like, okay, I know Seth's like interested in this game. I'll let him know how it goes. And it's like I started off talking very positively about it, and then it just got like more and more like kind of mellow to like I don't like this anymore. I don't recommend
Y-
picking this up.
Yeah, Robert's descriptions, and it's not because it's not Persona, so I don't want to play. It's just the fact that Robert has gone to such lengths to describe how there is a lack of personality and just creativity in this game that make me be like, yeah, I really don't want to play it if it doesn't have, like, as Drew puts it, as some sort of flair to make it distinct. If it doesn't
Yeah.
have that, then I'm just not interested.
Like, even something like Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne is a lot more interesting to me than Soul Hackers 2. And Nocturne has a lot of old Atlas bullshit, as I like to call it.
Okay. Well, that's
uh,
what. So, I believe that everything. Yeah, that's unfortunate to hear about that. That's just it. Just doesn't have anything to make it stand out. But
Because it like tries to like have some of like the elements of Persona 5. Like the menus could be a little snappy, and in combat it's set up with the same like each button press is associated with a certain thing in like combat, but it just doesn't have the same like feel or flair that like P5 has.
yeah. Well, with that said,
Quick
I
question,
can't.
Robert. Most important question: can you romance anyone in this game?
No.
Trash game.
Okay, then yeah,
So
it's
It's not a
it's
dating
trash
yeah,
sim.
game. I don't want to touch it.
I don't know.
Okay.
If I can't pretend I'm
We
happy in a video game, what's the point?
You get your full party in like 2 hours, which is kind of nice, I guess.
If I can't have a
who cares if
virtual
I can't like
waifu,
bone him?
it's just
You want to bone Saizo? Okay.
Let's do it. I don't know who that is, but let's do it.
moving on.
Uh,
So for my just most disappointed. Um, and there's a reason that we do disappoint and not plain worse. Because I actually will say I do enjoy playing this game, but it is an incredible disappointment given what it is. Seth probably knows what I'm talking about. And it's definitely Overwatch 2. Which really hurts to say because if we ever did this podcast in like 2019, or I'm sorry, not 2019, 2016, when Overwatch 1 came out, it would have. Wait, is that right? Anyway,
yeah. Well,
yeah, that's right. Um, Overwatch 1 would have been my favorite game. I love that game. I've spent so many hours into that game playing Reinhardt, playing all the different characters, playing tank. We all, I mean, not all. It sounds like Robert got super into it. Um, but I love that game. I worked my ass off to get to diamond ranked, and one of the things I always wanted from it was I want more single player because these characters were interesting and you got some of the story through like the voice lines and stuff, but it just was never there. And you would get snippets of it when they would do like these events, and that was always fun. And then after a lot of different, Blizzard had a bunch of internal issues and all that stuff, they finally are like, we're gonna put a 2 on it, and we're gonna put a single player mode into it, and we're gonna do all this stuff, but that is not the game that was released to us. There are some changes that I do like. I don't want to be all negative. I actually like the 5v5 system. I know you don't see too much of a gameplay difference after playing it for a little bit. I kind of feel that like okay, it is different. It does have a different feel. Tanks feel more impactful. Some of the character changes were nice, but really nothing super substantial. Um, you know, and that's kind of where it ends. Well, I will say I also like most of the new, like some of the characters got redesigned, and I enjoy that. But after that, the new game mode push is okay. It's nothing amazing. Some of the maps got a little bit revamped, but nothing substantial. It really, I'm not the first one to say this, and I probably won't be the last. It doesn't feel like Overwatch 2. It's really 1.5. It feels like a big.
It's a big patch.
It's a patch, and that's
yeah.
fine. But and it's fine if all they did was patch it and leave everything else the same. But what really pisses me off about this thing has nothing to do with the gameplay. What really actually got me really mad about it was their monetization issues. And at first, I was like, oh, well, I can't get mad at that because now it's a free game. Except there are plenty of free games that do these type of systems better. The skins, if you want to customize your character at all, unless like you buy the battle pass, which is kind of expensive, this to buy individual skins is incredibly expensive. Like $18 to $20 for like one skin and like a spray
Wait,
or something.
really?
It was something
Yeah.
really
$20
bad.
for one skin?
Yeah, it was
Oh my
bad.
god.
Well, sometimes it's like a skin bundle, so it might come with emotes and a
So
player icon.
it
But
would be
yeah, that's
$20
honestly kind of
for
true.
the example I'm thinking. It was $20 for a Junker Queen skin, a spray, and in like a voice line and emote. And the
So
spray and
even
voice line were really nothing. But in reality, the only thing of
The,
substantial value is that skin.
so like if you're a like veteran player of the game, like a legacy player, do you get like anything like, oh, you get the first battle pass for free?
If you are a
Or
legacy
is it just
player,
like,
you get everything you used to have. I still have all my
oh,
old skins and all that from one. I have everything from I had as one, but it's anything new. Um,
oh, okay.
no,
and it's really that honestly just the monetization thing is super frustrating because and here's the other thing, that's the only way to get skins. There's no like
Yeesh.
you can progress in like the free battle pass, but there's not like new skins in that. And I don't even understand how you get coins in that because it's not with leveling up, and I think it's just random almost. So in reality, you just can't progress and you can't customize yourself if you're one of the free players. You have to spend money, and it's such a BS
That's
system.
awful.
And at first I was like, well, it's a free game. But then I thought, no, there are games like Smite, who, if you just keep playing the game, you will earn gems, you will earn favor, and you will get enough sun to unlock more gods and unlock more skins. And there's events where you might just randomly get a skin you like, and it incentivizes you to keep playing the game.
Yeah, so like even if you just play the game like normally, you can't get like any type of currency to buy those.
If there is a way to get currency, it is not illustrated well. Because I've been playing it for a while. Even after getting the first battle pass, I don't have that much currency to spend. Like
Jeez.
it is insane how bad it is, that marketing system, and it's frustrating to the point that it really I don't want to play it anymore. But again, I want to go back to the fact that it's still Overwatch and it still is actually a fun game to play. Like I still enjoy playing as these characters. I will occasionally get on with my friend Jamar and do competitive, and that's still really fun to do. And it's so frustrating cuz it's there's no benefit. There's no positive way to look at this at the shop system. Now, I will say this has gone better since doing it because a lot of this grudge is when they were doing their Halloween event, which again, a great event. The actual mode you got to play during the Halloween was super fun and actually, gave me bright like hopes that oh maybe they can do kind of this interactive gameplay stuff when they actually do the story, which didn't come out when this came out. That's not coming out till this upcoming year. I don't even know if they have an exact release date, but I'm like, okay, that's actually cool. But after you play it once, there's no reason to keep playing it. It's not like the Junkerstein one where if you kept playing it, you could get special Halloween loot boxes, which could randomly get you rewards. It's a free system, and they just kind of like there are no loot boxes in this game anymore. Was kind of their big marketing
Yeah.
idea. So there's no reason
Yeah.
to play that mode other than once for fun and then to see if you want to do it on the hardest difficulty. After that, it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Because you won't gain rewards. You'll gain some XP, but that doesn't really get you anything. So
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to add also is just that, like, sorry, I should have coined it with this earlier, but man, it Overwatch's like pricing of skins really does put Smite to shame, and that's saying something. Like, God, like the pricing is actually like pretty ridiculous in Overwatch. I want to add something, like just to speak to it, because Drew, you said like if this is back into 2016, this would be a different story. Here's the thing: I think even if you went back to 2019,
Oh no,
you would
no.
still be a lot more. Yeah.
Oh no, what I mean by that is I liked Overwatch 1 in 2019. Like I was just so happy with the gameplay. And then no, if
Oh
this
yeah.
system was put anywhere, that's stupid.
Yeah, like I think like the just to say how much goodwill was with Blizzard was like
Yeah.
even up until I'd probably say 2019 maybe like I would say a lot of players were still like this is an awesome game. Like I still seem to remember that in 2018 2019 Overwatch was still a regular rotation of our multiplayer games that we would play together.
That was definitely.
Like and now it's like I don't know man like it's I feel like Overwatch 2 is you're right. It is more like they just call it 2. It's 1.5. The monetary issues is a big problem. You've already kind of spoken for me on
Sorry.
like the things where
Yeah.
I like they made some changes with the key changes to the multiplayer, and I personally feel like those key changes are either not noticeable or when they are noticeable, it's not noticeable, at least for me personally, in a good way. Um, so that's not a positive. One of the things though that really got me is man, Overwatch 2 was supposed to come with a campaign and obviously they delayed and I kind of get it. Like I know they have some internal issues along with the pandemic and all that, but man, like I feel like you should have just waited till you had the campaign because that's what I was personally waiting for
Yeah.
anyways. I agree with Drew. I love these characters. I want to see more about them and so much time has gone by where I'm like, man, like has has the right time for Overwatch to come out with like more story focused content kind of passed? Like I'm still waiting for it. But like just look at I mean, shit, there was a whole new adaptation thing at the Game Awards about like show games getting shows like Arcane for League of Legends and Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and they are both like hailed as like super good shows.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the Overwatch show? I'm Drew. I know you said it, and I agree. The quality of the hero animations, like with Junker Queen and the new healer girl. I'm
Kiriko.
sorry, I'm
Yeah.
slipping on her.
Kiriko.
Kiriko. That's it. I agree. The animations look great. They look wonderful, and it still is expressive and well voice acted and all that.
But make that a show.
I am tired. Yeah, make it a show. I am tired of origin stories in Overwatch. We've been in origin story mode since 2016.
Yep.
We it feels like the world of Overwatch has not moved on in a meaningful way since then.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the story of this world besides just giving me these backstories for these characters, which I genuinely like, but I want to see the world move forward. It always talks about this Omnic crisis. Where is it? Where is it in the games? And it's
Yeah, I've
like
never
that's where I
thought
feel like
that was relevant.
yeah, I feel like the campaign is the way that it could deliver that story, and they still haven't given it to us. And I'm like, or not even a show. Like I would even take a show to help us do that. It feels like it's such easy money in the bag for Blizzard, and they're just not doing it. Like I know that like it's a lot of hard work and there's a lot of planning and money and all this involved. I get that, but they've had since 2016 to set something up, and we still have not seen anything for it yet.
It's something that like and again, we're not the first ones to say this. We were saying this back in 2016. I remember first starting the game up and playing like, God dang, wouldn't this be amazing doing co-op? When they did the first ever, I think it was the Uprising event, and that was your first ever little co-op thing. That was not a big event. That was not something big and fancy. But God dang it, that mode was fun, and that actually gave us some character story and something was happening. We loved it. We played that mode a million times, and we just kept saying like, why don't they just make a campaign like this? Just do a campaign. And it does. I mean, at this point it needs to be grand, but back then it could have been something small. It's simple, and we probably would have still loved it. Um, but now it's at the point where it's just like you've just been waiting for so long, and I'm just like, the moment to do this was like I think you said like back in 2019, 2018. Like Overwatch 2 should have come out with all of this stuff. And I get it, delays and then COVID and all that, but I yeah, I probably would have said let it, let it come out all at once. And I think it would have done a lot better. Because at the very least, even though that like I probably would have hated the monetization system just as much, and I still would complain about it. I don't think I probably could have let all that slide if it was like, but that campaign was sick. So, and hopefully it is actually good. So yeah, that's all I can say at Overwatch.
And hopefully we get or just a show, man. Like I said, it's crazy recently. Like just this past year with like Arcane, Cyberpunk got a anime which I haven't finished, but I would argue its story is better than the actual game it's based on.
Yeah.
It's like,
don't forget about
so
freaking
come on,
Castlevania,
man.
one of the greatest anime like based off of
That's
video
also
game
true.
ever. Yeah.
Where it's like its early titles basically had no story, like
Yeah,
the original
they
like
made
NES
stuff up.
games.
Yeah.
But
so come on, just put out like an animated series already. Like it's so, I mean, I know I say already, I know it takes a lot of time, but like, did it not cross anyone's mind that we should be working on something like this?
I mean, I'm sure it has, but just do something other than just multiplayer, because it gets tiring after a while. Also, last thing that I'll say, and I'm pretty sure that they're already there's probably already works in development to change this. But with the new hero, the fact that he is locked behind, you have to unlock him in the battle pass or buy him. And I don't know how you're able to unlock him in the future once his battle pass is over. But that's stupid. That's really dumb. That works in a game like Smite where there's just a million of them, and it's already an established thing, and any comp can really beat any other comp for the most part. But Overwatch is a game based, it's a shooter based around counter picks and stuff. So if there's a character that's just locked, I can't play him, that really doesn't work for this format.
Yeah, that's the thing of Overwatch's gameplay is being able to switch heroes based on the need.
I thought they understood that when they came out and they updated where it's yeah, if you switch heroes, you still retain 30% of your ult charge. I thought they understood the fact that oh, we get the system. No, apparently not. Never mind. So, but that's okay. That's the last thing I'll say about it. Overwatch 2 is
and I want to add.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, I want to add one more thing, and just that hopefully in this Overwatch 2 slander on a little bit of a higher note. I'm still looking forward to the campaign. I hope that they can pull it off, something good, even if it's not that great, even if it's just something decent. I really feel like I'll be able to properly judge an Overwatch 2 once that campaign is out.
Yeah.
I still have a bit of cautious optimism about it.
I completely agree. That's why I call it disappointing, not bad, because it's not done yet. I want that campaign to come out and just blow us away. And so I can say monetization was terrible, but dang, that campaign though. So, but that's
even though it hasn't left the best impression, the story of Overwatch 2 is still being written, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see what they can do with that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've been talking for a while now about Overwatch. Seth, what is your most disappointing game of this past year?
So technically it didn't come out this year, but it's supposed to get a lot of support this year. This is one that kind of hurts a little. Because this was a game that and I went back and listened to our old podcasts before our show. It was on the short list of my game of the years from last year. It was Halo Infinite. I have such a deep attachment to the Halo series, and I did feel like that Halo Infinite was 343's chance to kind of bring Halo back into the forefront and to really show kind of the larger gaming audience of today of this is what Halo's all about, and it's so good. And you know what? I would say this, in the condition it was released at the time, it was pretty dang good. It was missing some very key features. I definitely agree with a lot of criticism online about that, but it was a good game. And I was I think everyone accepted it, was okay, this is the basis that we're going to have, right? Going forward, we're going to get way more Halo Infinite, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the first things that was supposed to be added in was campaign co-op and Forge.
Yeah.
Yeah, both those things were promised like, hey, this first it was like, hey, we're not going to be able to have it by the beginning of 2022, but have it ready by spring. Okay. Spring comes along. It gets delayed. All right, it's getting moved back to summer. Okay, we're midway through the year, but hopefully they can get that out soon. Summer comes along, and then they push it back again. And this time, I think they just pushed it straight to like in pretty much November, like kind of close to the end of the year. And it feels like Halo Infinite has started off such a great start with its multiplayer and its campaign. And since then, the support has just felt bare minimum, unless it's the store for like armor pieces and colors and crap.
Yeah.
It felt like the game was just not getting the support. It was not getting enough like new modes or new maps, like kind of things you need to sustain a multiplayer title. It just everything was just coming out in piecemeal, and it was like this is taking so long. And what sucks is like the main gameplay is still very good, but it just taken so long just to get campaign co-op, something that's kind of always been there when these games come out on release, you know?
Yeah.
And it sucks. And I remember being really excited for Halo Infinite after it first launched because like the potential for the future was so big. After it's like, all right, man, this month or we're going to be getting campaign co-op, we're getting Forge, and then from there we're going to get more maps. Maybe they'll bring back things like Firefight, or they'll be able to do maybe DLC campaigns since they said that Halo Infinite's going to be a platform, and Halo Infinite kind of ends like not on a cliffhanger, but suggesting that there will be more adventures to come. And it's like, cool, maybe we can get more additions to this amazing campaign. Maybe we can get Firefight, like all these like things. We are just now getting campaign co-op, and I'm not too certain about like, okay, if we're just now getting campaign co-op and Forge, where does that leave? Like, where does that leave us with getting anything else new? Like,
Yeah, and
it's
they've also like had to cancel like the split screen co-op. So it's like
yeah,
there's just a lot of like goodwill that they initially had, but it's kind of been lost because they've just not been able to deliver on anything.
can you like and here's the thing, maybe I'm just not sure. I This is almost like a reverse of situations like a No Man's Sky or like a
Yeah.
Cyberpunk where they release in like a rough state, but they garner like goodwill
Yeah.
slowly back up. This feels like the reverse story. It came out and got such high praise and such goodwill, but
Everything in
over
the
the
Yeah.
pre-release was like really good.
That's the thing.
it
Like
was
I freaking loved Halo Infinite when it came out. The gameplay was smooth. It felt great. Giving Master Chief a grappling hook is a fantastic idea. There should be more grapple hooks in video games. The campaign was fun. I enjoyed the slightly more open world feel of it. I enjoyed the multiplayer, and yes, it it had the fantastic start, and then just tripped over itself, and then just stopped moving. And
it it it, it,
I
it's
can't
like it
think.
went dead.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone that's like. It's like in I used to race. I used to race cross country. It's like what we would call the person of we would call the rabbit whoever started the race. They would do the first mile in the fastest heat they could do, and they'd be leading the entire race, and they would do great. And that person came in dead last because they blew out all their energy. But I have no idea why Halo did that. Like I have no idea where they came out the guns swinging, and they had so much momentum, and then just didn't really do anything.
yeah,
You
like
know?
Yeah.
it just didn't deliver on anything, and it's like if we've just been drip fed content, and most of the content, like Seth mentioned, was just stuff in the store.
Yeah,
It's again,
and
you
it's
buy
like
all these armor pieces, but you can't like really customize your character outside of it because, like the last game we talked about, Overwatch 2, the multiplayer went with the free to play model.
Yeah.
yeah.
Which wasn't a bad
And like
idea
it's
for Halo. I think
No,
it
that was a
worked.
really good
I think it worked
idea because that's
fantastically
just what a
well.
lot of like the major multiplayer games are doing is they're being free to play.
And I think
It's
that's
like you reduce the barrier of entry as little as possible and you keep people in with like the cosmetics and stuff.
but
Yeah,
do stuff
and
after
like
that.
yeah, like that's the weird thing because it's like with Halo Infinite, it's not like they made one really bad choice and it just like really screwed everything up. That's not what it is. It's Halo Infinite did nothing. It went it just went dark.
Yeah.
Except and the only time they would announce stuff is like when they're delaying a new feature. It's like what the heck?
Like I forgot you were making
It's
that
like-
feature. Honestly, if you didn't announce that.
Like they pushed
Yeah.
back Forge like so much. We just now are getting Forge, and it's like a solid year after the game came out.
Yeah, and granted, it looks very promising right now. The weather effects, the fact that people are building their own AIs in like little games and crap in like Forge is astounding and it's awesome. But we're just now getting it. Whenever it felt like this thing should have been here a half a year ago.
It's
If you want to get really critical, it should have been there when the game released.
It's like
And
Halo
like
5 again, where it's like the game doesn't come out in a fully like feature complete state.
yeah, and it's one of those things where I get it, and I hope to God that like, you know, and like I want to be like, yes, like don't crunch your developers, treat them respectfully, give them good hours where they're not like destroying themselves and their family lives just to pump out a freaking video game. Like, of course I don't want that. And
Yeah.
I hope that they are taking because they're taking their time, they are like allowing their employees to like, actually breathe and have lives and have good working conditions, but something needs to change, and it's either like the pace that they're going, and I hope it's without having to make it backbreaking for the employees, or better communication. Be more realistic about it. Maybe you shouldn't have came out with the game immediately if it was going to be this feature drought for this long. Like maybe you should have waited another year. So I want to kind of end things out with. We talked a lot about it. I want to end things out with Halo Infinite, though. I did recently go back to it, playing with some friends. Like they had a new mode called Joint Ops, and also a couple of new playlists. And I gotta say, the gameplay is still so much fun. It's still some of the, in my opinion, some of the most fun I've had with a multiplayer shooter within the past few years. Like it still holds up remarkably well, the gameplay wise. There's literally like we played like this new playlist where it's just an assortment of interesting like custom game modes, where it was a capture the flag mode where you had infinite grapple hook, infinite energy sword, everyone on the map. So everyone is like a ninja just being Spider-Man, swinging around with energy swords, getting into clashes over the flag. It was so cool and so much fun, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this game is like content drought. And I'm hoping that now that we have Forge finally, now that we have campaign co-op finally, we can really start to forge ahead with Halo Infinite and make it into the place it should have been.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I want to leave things. I'm like Overwatch 2, I'm cautiously optimistic about its future.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't know. I remember like when we were doing this list, I think I didn't even consider Halo for most of the point because I'm not gonna lie, I forget about it. Like if we had talked about it, I'm like, oh yeah, Halo did promise like a bunch of like announcement stuff. But nothing really happened with it. So but I completely agree with you, Seth. I just hopefully in the next year they'll do better. They'll learn from their mistakes. But speaking of next year, we did our disappointed talk. Now we look to the future. We look to the brightness. And there are definitely a lot of games that we can talk about. I think I already know mine, but I want to make sure you guys talk about yours so we don't talk about the same thing because I have like 50 of them that I could talk about. So, Robert, what is your most anticipated game for 2023?
So, as a Zelda fanboy, I've got to go with Tears of the Kingdom.
No one saw this coming.
The
No one.
the sequel, long awaited, to Breath of the Wild, which is one of probably the most influential games of all time. Like I think it's up there with like something no one's ever going to forget about. And how do you follow up from Breath of the Wild? That is a good question. Um, Personally, I had some issues with Breath of the Wild. I still enjoy it a lot, but I didn't have the same love for it that a lot of people do. But at the same time, I think it just did so much right as a game that I really want to see how they follow up with it. Like how does the sequel to that work? Like can this surpass Breath of the Wild is what I really want to see. And
Yeah.
like what have they learned in the past few years that will push the game
Yeah.
forward?
Specifically,
Maybe will
yeah,
will even some things from like Elden Ring by any chance like influence it?
yeah. So specifically with
Weapon
it,
durability,
yeah.
Remove durability, please. Change the weapon
please.
system.
So
That was like my biggest
yeah,
gripe was the weapon system.
Robert, moving
As a
to
person going through
yeah.
Breath of the Wild right now for the first time, I completely agree with Robert. In the end game, I didn't mind as much in the early game, but man, in the end game, I'm like, okay, this weapon durability system is actual trash.
Yeah, it got less fun as the game went on.
So, as someone who, or I guess, out of my own curiosity, what are what are some of the things? I'll ask this first. The not expected question. What are some of the things that you hope stay? Do you still want the mechanic of I can go to the end boss and get my ass handed to me, or do you want it to like okay, a bit? I guess not restrictions, but like maybe
I think
a bit
keeping
more
it open
options.
is the best idea.
Okay.
I think the best thing for it is like Breath of the Wild, keep it to be very open of a game. Because I think that's just the core identity of that game, so taking that away wouldn't really be a good idea. I'm personally more privy to like the linear 3D Zelda games. Like my favorites are like Wind Waker, Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, those ones.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that it it's a good idea to keep it non-linear like that. I'm curious how they'll do the story because the game, like its story taking place in the past and you kind of just glimpsing into like what happened before the calamity. I think that was a really neat way to do its story. I don't know how they'll do the story in this one. Like I don't know
Yeah.
if they're going to try to do something similar because I don't know what they could do that's similar.
Yeah. So I know at least for me, one of the things that I actually hope that changes from this, and I think would it's kind of been a thing that we always talk about with like stuff like this, but I hope that in this game, and they haven't hinted at that in this slightly, so it's probably not true. I hope there is more you can play as more than just Link. I hope there is options to play as Zelda, or even as some people theorize, as like a Ganondorf. I don't honestly see that being likely, just because they've barely shown anything for the game. But I feel like if
Yeah.
that was like a main thing, they would show that off. But that's
Well,
always
apparently even the title of the game was a spoiler and they went and revealed it anyway, so
oh, fair enough.
Was it what Tears? I'm sorry. The title is Tears of the Kingdom again, right?
yeah. They were very like hesitant to like show the game's title because they're like,
Huh.
"Oh, when we say the title, it'll give away like a lot of the game." But it's like you got to reveal the title,
I'm about to
guys.
say you do. It's that's not exactly something you can keep secret.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be on the ding
Maybe you need to.
box.
Just be like,
Yeah. Maybe if you really think it's gonna be that much of a giveaway, maybe you shouldn't
call it,
name it that.
call it something else.
um. So like. I'm just kind of curious now. What is there? Has anyone figured out what the title means yet? Then, like already about like potential spoiler of this?
My only real guess is that it has to do with like I guess Hyrule being like really like decrepit essentially. Like from what little we've seen of the gameplay, it seems like there's a lot of like floating ruins and stuff.
You know, that's the other thing.
It seems like the
I just
sky
thought
is
of.
gonna be a bigger element of the game.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt
Huh.
it, but another thing that really shouldn't be. if you think that that's going to be a title, maybe don't tell people you think that's going to be a spoiler. Because if you just never said
Yeah,
anything,
because
we
now
just wouldn't have guessed.
yeah, that's a fair point. No one would start thinking this way if they didn't say anything like that.
Like, if they just didn't. This is like some 3D chess mind games of like, it actually isn't, but they're just messing with us. And I'm just like, what's even real at this point?
I mean, honestly, anything is possible at this point. I I'm really interested to see this game too. It's compelling me to finally get around and beat Breath of the Wild after I've been playing it on and off for over a year. That's for sure.
Compelling me to finally do a replay of it because I've been meaning to do that for a few years.
Yeah, and I feel like it could be just because I I don't know if I could ever say Breath of the Wild is one of my favorite games of all time, just because I kind of came into it later, and I feel like some of its certain mechanics that really blew people away aren't as mind blowing to me going into it. Uh, but I ended up really liking Breath of the Wild, and I'm hoping Breath of the Wild 2 is able to be that big substantial step like that first Breath of the Wild was, you know? Um, because I'll be honest, I feel like I've already played a better Breath of the Wild, and that was Elden Ring. Um, and that's just my personal opinion.
I always feel like
But
but you're right.
yeah, yeah, and I hope that like the biggest thing that I think that held Breath of the Wild back, in my opinion, is I know there's all kinds of crazy things with glitches and all that where you could do like cancels and arrow shield surfing, flying in the air, anime bullshit. But I don't play that way with my games. I try to play in the constraints that the game places me in and expect to work around that. Not that I have to glitch the game to make it fun. I think the gameplay is very kind of basic in Breath of the Wild 1, and I found the combat not that fun. Especially since weapons break. So when you're the combat, weirdly enough, in the early game was fun, but once you get into the later game where you're having very tanky enemies, you only have so many weapons because of the durability system, and like they're maybe not doing enough damage, or these enemies are really tanky, and you're just breaking your good swords against one dude. It's like so boring. It's so tedious. So I'm hoping that's something that gets addressed with Breath of the Wild too. Sorry, Robert, I'm kind of hijacking it, but
Oh no, you're fine.
that's my personal thoughts. Is like I really think the combat needs a rework in too.
Mm.
All right.
No, I kind of agree with you on some of that. It's like, yeah, I think the weapon durability system was my biggest point of contention with Breath of the Wild. So them kind of changing that system up would probably make me enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah, if you just added in something like you can hold on to maybe less weapons, but you can upgrade them or something like that, like dedicate resources to help deal with that curve in like enemy power would be much nicer instead of like because it worked in Elden Ring. Like you can literally take whatever starting weapon you have in Elden Ring and take that all the way to the end of the game by upgrading it and stuff like that. And you can add some neat little features to it too to get it to behave differently. Like making like some sort of magic like frost type magic or sorcery or fire or bleed or whatever you please, um and adding new moves. So I feel like there might be a couple of lessons that you're right, Breath of the Wild 2 maybe should take away from Elden Ring, in terms of its combat at least. One thing that I definitely would be looking forward to is the shrines. I love the shrines in Breath of the Wild 1. I hope that they bring those back in 2. I think they would.
More than likely, that was one of the more popular parts of the first one, but so it's probably a similar type thing. Um, so, but I definitely agree. Anything else with Breath of the Wild 2 before I move on?
I think that's about it.
All right. So, Steph, you've already talked a little bit about Breath of the Wild, but I don't think that is your most anticipated game. What is your most anticipated game for next year?
All right, I'm just gonna say this real quick. It's not my most anticipated game, just because I did look it up during our podcast, and I'm not 100% sure. But the Hades 2 reveal during the Game Awards might be the one of two things that was redeemable to watch at the Game Awards.
I should have went
The other
before
was the
you.
Hellboy video game.
I should have went before
But
you. Go
the
ahead.
Hellboy video game, though, doesn't have a release date, so I'm not going to pick that. Also, it doesn't look like Hades 2 has an official release date yet, not even a 2023 year. I looked through it and doesn't seem to be there's anything like that, which
Mhm.
I would say this much: if it did come on 2023, Hades 2 might have been my most anticipated game.
Did it not say 2023? Also, I mean, they showed gameplay.
It didn't.
Right? Okay.
They did show gameplay, but it didn't. I do think they did mention though that they are going to be much like the first Hades. They are bringing it to early access, but they didn't specify a year or time frame.
They showed off a
I don't know.
lot in that trailer. I would be very surprised if it didn't come out next year, but I guess there's nothing official about it.
So. Yeah, and like I just that's why I'm like, man, it probably would be Hades 2, but right now, since it's kind of up in the air about when that game's exact release date is, I'm just gonna hold off on making it that. Now I'm also going on another tangent. I'm gonna rewind us to almost a year ago when we did this podcast to my other most anticipated game. So real quick, does everybody else remember their most anticipated game from last year?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure mine was Pokemon.
Robert, what was?
Mine was Kirby.
Yours was Pokemon.
Yeah, mine was.
Yours Kirby. Both of your games came out. Yeah. My most anticipated game didn't come out.
What was yours?
That was Starfield.
Oh yeah,
it was Starfield.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that got pushed.
Yeah. So yeah, Starfield is supposedly come out next year. I hope it does. I am really looking forward to it. That's not my game of the year. Or sorry, most anticipated game. My most anticipated game is Resident Evil 4 Remake. It's so weird that the game I'm most looking forward to is a remake game, but here we are. The reason why is just because, one, Robert already spoke onto this much earlier. The pedigree of these remake games have been stellar. They've been so fun to play, and they're so well designed, and they just have such good atmosphere and music and gameplay to them that's just yes, they're great. And now they're going to be given that treatment to arguably one of the best, if not the best, Resident Evil game to ever be released. That's a tall order, but I'm definitely ready for it. And based on the early gameplay demo and trailers that they've shown off of Resident Evil 4 Remake, what I think is most interesting is whereas Resident Evil 4, the original, was very kind of more action horror, it was kind of it's less Evil Dead 1 and more Evil Dead 2, if there was a comparison I was supposed to make, is the best way I could describe Resident Evil 4, then hopefully Resident Evil 4 Remake, based on the tone of its trailers, might be embracing its horror roots more. So it'll be kind of cool to see an interpretation of Resident Evil 4 that's more of an actual spooky game, bringing the same amount of polish that the remakes had, while also hopefully in some ways preserving some of that original spirit of the original Resident Evil 4 with the really good combat and pacing and just some of the goofy moments. So yeah, that's my most anticipated game.
Not a bad pick.
No, I definitely agree with that. And we've already talked about why Resident Evil 4 is a good game. And the most recent Resident Evil games have also had a lot of polish and just fun elements to them, so I definitely agree. When you say, Nessa, more horror elements, do you think it should go as far as how far Resident Evil 7 went, at least with the opening, at least with the beginning parts of Resident Evil 7?
Yeah.
That level of dude, or do you think let's not go to that extreme?
I feel you still, even if you do want to make it more horror focused, I feel you still need to pay homage to that more goofier or actiony side of Resident Evil 4, the original.
Leon still
so maybe not that far. Yeah. Well, okay. In the trailer, they literally show him parry a chainsaw with a knife.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not completely out of the question. But the I think if there is a level of horror I would like it to be at, Resident Evil 2 Remake, I think, is the perfect area. Is Resident Evil 2 Remake levels of horror that have a little bit more of that same action that we got in Resident Evil 4, It would be a tough balance. It really is trying to have your cake and eat it too, It's so what you're basically asking for is the perfect game. And I'm yes. I guess I am. but I feel confident in this team. Even with Resident Evil 3 Remake not being received that well, I really enjoyed that game.
It was
It
still
wasn't as
fun.
good as 2 Remake. It was still a good damn game. I would say it's still better than most games and a lot of other horror games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is my most hype game. And thankfully, I only really have to wait about 4 months before I get my hands on it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I agree.
I do
So,
want to say this much. Also, the reason why I didn't pick Starfield is just because after seeing some gameplay of it, it doesn't look bad. I think it looks like fun. It's just I don't think it's going to be the groundbreaking game that a lot of people want it to be. It's not going to be Breath of the Wild for Bethesda. I think you're going to get exactly what's on the tin. It is going to be a 8 out of 10 open world RPG Bethesda ass game.
I was gonna say you should.
That's what it's going to be.
Probably not coming out this year. It'll get delayed again.
Yeah, that too. I don't want to put that curse on it.
Yeah, it's gonna get delayed another time. I'll put the curse on.
No,
God,
again.
I hope I didn't curse Resident Evil 4 remake either.
Dude.
I don't.
It's
think
coming out March 1st. It shouldn't be too long.
Y'all are.
We'll see.
I hope y'all are knocking on wood after you saying this.
Yeah, no. I mean, here's the thing. We also thought we were gonna get campaign co-op in Forge just 3 months after Halo Infinite's release.
Yeah.
So
Yep. So for mine, and I'm gonna lie, I'm gonna have more than one, because I thought one of these would be taken by one of you, but it wasn't. And before I say this, I also will say, if we had a release date, it would be Hades 2. Like, I agree with that. Hades 2 was the biggest out of nowhere. Because this, okay, I want to also point out, these guys don't do sequels. I don't think someone point out they've never
No, they
done a
don't.
sequel to it. And Hades, I was not expecting to get a sequel. Like, the way that story is told and, like, how complete that game is, I would never have expected a sequel from that. And they just, and, like, this came out, and immediately when I heard that, like, I saw the art style, I was like, there's no way. I'm crazy. No, there's no way. And then I heard that theme, and I saw the character, and I was like, holy.
Yeah, the guitar riff.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
guitar, and I was freaking, like, I was at work, and I'm like, because you guys texted me, and I was just like, no way, they're messing with me. And I was watching this, and I was just like I wanted to scream, but I'm like, I'm at work right now, I can't do that.
I mean, you could. It just wouldn't go over well.
Yeah, probably not. But it's insane, and I'm so hyped because Hades is the game that made me like roguelikes. It is, gosh, I want to give that game of the year. But it wasn't even close to coming out this year. That game is amazing. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. Go play Hades 1, and I'm very excited for Hades 2. That's not really what my pick was, but it might as well.
Oh, Drew, real quick.
Yes.
Something that I did notice though with the trailer from Hades 2. I know we're not talking about this. We're talking about most anticipated games, but I think we all agree that yeah, in the trailer, I feel like it's interesting that it seems to be that whereas Zagreus's journey in Hades was him going up to the surface, this seems to be about this character going down.
Yeah.
Because it seems like some of the combat starts on the surface.
She looks, and they call her a witch. So I think she might not know she's a god yet. So I think you're right. It seems very much more like surface level, which also would explain why Zagreus doesn't know of this person, because he just never met. He can't live on the surface, which is also going to be really interesting of like how that ties back into the character. I would love if we got to see Zagreus again. Again, this is gonna be a theme for every single thing about this, but this is a plea for just more co-op stuff. It'd be amazing if there was co-op and one player could play as Zagreus, but no proof of that happening. But yeah, I'm super excited for it. I think you're right, and I think it would be really interesting of like her descending into hell, and trying to fight Cronus.
And we don't know how much time has passed. Like, she could be going down there and like meet Zagreus, and maybe at this point, maybe Zagreus has taken over after Hades or something like that.
Yeah.
Anything's possible. Like, God knows how many years have passed since the first Hades.
Something tells me, I don't know why, I would find it really funny if we get down there and like, here's my theory. Here's my theory: is that these are happening at like a similar time, or maybe right after Hades, and you get down there, and one of your first boss fights when you get to the underworld is against Zagreus. This is my theory. I have no proof of this. It's just me. My thinking is one of the first boss fights you will fight in the underworld is against Zagreus, because now his new job is security. So that is my out of nowhere pitch. I have no proof of this other than I think it'll be cool. But that's where I think that's gonna be going, and it'll be like Zagreus right after, like pretty much right after you finish the game, even though the game technically never ends. Anyway, that's a lot on Hades. Great game. But my actual pick is really two because I couldn't pick between the two, which is why I was really hoping one of you would pick one of these. And if Randy was on this podcast, this is the one he would pick. So we'll start with this one.
Oh, I know what you're about to say.
Yeah, you already know this one. And it's Jedi Survivor. It's been highly, anticipated, it's been rumored about, but it was officially announced at this past Game Awards, and it looks sick. Cal now has a beard. He's grown up. Apparently, he has this other, kind of sidekick, like gunslinger type character, which will be interesting, who interacts with you in gameplay. BD's back. My buddy's back. I've said it on every Star Wars podcast. Buddy is the best droid. But I'm super interested where the story is going. The gameplay looks more refined. You can finally now dual wield and actually have it be a moveset, not just like a move you can do. And also looks like a lot more customization with your lightsaber. You can get the crossguard, and from what it looks like, from the little bit we see, when you have the crossguard, Cal has a much more like slower but more powerful, like big arc type move set is what we see him do. Probably less throwing that thing. So I hope, one of my hopes for this game is that you customize your lightsaber more, but also that customizes your combat, so you can have different experiences. We see Cal with more movement option. He has this like force dash midair, and as I said earlier, he has a grappling hook. More grappling hooks in games. Kind of useless on a Jedi in hindsight, but it's fine. So I'm super excited about this game. The story looks interesting, and it'll just be. This is a time period in Star Wars where it's always like some of the best stories are told when the Jedi Order is done and there's rogue Jedi just trying to figure their way out in a world that is just not good for a Jedi to be in right now. So I'm really excited about this game, and I hope that not only is it good and it plays well, but that it actually runs properly. Because two of the biggest issues in the previous game, one of them looks like it's already being fixed, was the customization. Like Cal, you couldn't make him look differently. At least in this, even if you can't
What
customize
poncho do you like?
yeah, they've already announced for pre-order stuff you can get like different outfits for him. So already more outfits than the previous game. And the next one.
Also, I believe I want to add this much. I believe whenever they initially announced this before this gameplay long before, with that cinematic trailer, I think this is going to be a like Series X and S / PS5 exclusive and PC, of course. But
Good.
So I think it's not going to also be having like, I hate to put it this way, but like the older systems sort of handicapping it. So I think it looks promising.
Because that's what really, not the, it was the older systems, but like the previous game really just performed poorly, and that made that tough to get through. Still played through, still liked the game, but. Well, I mean,
have you played Fallen Order since on your Series X? Because like it looks and runs so much better now.
It's much better.
FPS boost was really nice.
Yeah, it was. That's why.
But this wasn't FPS boost. This was an official patch by Respawn to the game.
So that was just an upgrade.
Yeah, it was an upgrade that Respawn did themselves.
So definitely looking forward to it. It's like, okay, now that we're on next gen systems, the most powerful version we can do, what can we do with this? Let's make this game run well so that we don't have to focus on its performance. We can focus on the story. We can focus on the gameplay and focus on making a good game. I'm kind of just talking fast because I want to talk about my other one as well. So sorry, Jedi Fallen Order, but or Jedi Survivor. We're speeding through you because the other game I want to talk
He's
about.
fighting droids. That's all. That's the last thing
Yeah,
I throw out. He's fighting
droids.
droids.
Yeah,
That's cool.
droids are back. They're not dead. Well, they are dead because they were never alive, but whatever. The other game I want to talk about.
Wow, you're really gonna say that after Andor? After you talk about how much you love BMO?
I like how you say that and not how much I talked about how much I loved BD1.
This is also true.
But my other game I want to talk about, and as I said earlier, 2022 is arguably one of the worst years for fighting games. You know, DNF Duel is cool and all, but didn't really get much updates. KOF 15 is okay, but
It's kind of dead online because the online doesn't work.
exactly. These games need rollback, but a new fighting game is coming out that should have come out a lot sooner than this, but it is real and it has a release date, and it is June of next year, and that is Street Fighter
Tekken
6. Shut up. Yeah, there's a lot of fighting games coming out next year. Two of the big three are coming out next year. Mortal Kombat, still don't know what happening with them. There's a lot of stuff going on with that. Not for this podcast, maybe another one. But Street Fighter 6 is released. We've already seen a bunch of new characters and some returning characters. And Street Fighter's definitely been, I've always been a Mortal Kombat fan. I've never got really into the Street Fighters. But the fact that this game is coming to coming to all platforms, PlayStation, the Series X and S, and Steam, that I'm super excited that I will actually be able to play this version. And I'm very much looking forward to it. I've seen a lot of gameplay. It looks fast. I love that they're doing more of like kind of a jazz, or not jazz, more like hip hop style, like street level style. And that has always looked sick on Street Fighter, because it's a bit more of like a third strike aesthetic. And
yeah, a big thing was like trying to basically put the street back in Street Fighter was what a lot of the devs were saying.
yeah, I didn't want to say that because that's how it's kind of lame coming from white guys.
It does sound lame.
It does sound really lame unless you're like an actual cool person, which I am not. So I was trying to find a way around that. But the music looks sick. The new characters look sick. There's a big Spartan woman that I think Seth would love. I don't know if you've seen her.
Man, I need to pay more attention to this game.
Yeah, Seth, you would like Spartan woman. I don't know her name. Her name is Spartan
I
woman.
don't know, man. Maybe I need to check her out, but man, I have to say though, the Chun-Li though, man, her legs are huge. I mean, I know she's always had big legs.
Seth, you have no idea. You don't know about the big muscular woman.
They buffed her legs though, I swear, for Chun-Li.
Chun-Li's always been the thigh warrior.
Yeah, but I think it's like even more now, bro. Like it's pretty insane. I also like all the girls I've seen in it, they all look great. if we're really gauging it by sexual appeal, like I think they got that going for them.
Just if you get a chance, Seth, look up Street Fighter 6 Marissa. I was like, this is Seth's type of this is big woman.
I'm like Tormund from like Game of Thrones. It's like, where's the big woman?
Yes. She looks really cool.
Fans be like,
DJ was recently announced. He looks sick. I love that Ken's now a hobo. I think he looks cool. And
he looks like Axel from Streets of Rage 4, actually.
Oh, he does.
Like,
oh my gosh, I never even realized he's just Axel. Oh my, you're right.
Which is cool, because is it Axel based on him?
Yes.
Oh man, it comes full circle.
That's amazing. I never put two and two together. That's amazing. Yeah.
I kind of like the old dad look that he's got going on.
Yeah. He's definitely
more hobo. I guess you're right.
Yeah. He's drunken divorced father is what he is.
No, he's going underground. Someone's out for him. He's protecting his family.
I think that's the story.
We thought he was going to be a hobo, but no.
but he looks like a hobo is the main point.
He does, but he's going undercover.
But there's
Meanwhile, like Chun-Li hasn't looked like she's aged. She looks like she's gotten younger.
yeah, Ryu looks sick. He now has a beard. Luke and was it Jamie or is it the other?
I think it's Jamie.
Yeah, it's Jamie. He has the drunken boxer style fighting. Is probably like my new favorite, like my favorite newcomer of the series. There's just a lot of style and flash with these new characters, and the new systems look really interesting and cool. So definitely.
Do you think Ken grew out the beard because he's kind of like Kratos, where now he's going to be like the so like what was it? God of War became Dad of War. Maybe he'll become Dad Fighter.
You know, he's had a kid for a while. He's had a kid since like 4. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, so he already is Dad Fighter, but maybe he'll be like, what's the name of his son or daughter or whatever?
I think it's I don't know. Because
I
the
think he has
son's
a
like
son. I don't remember
it's a
what.
son.
There's
I know
gonna be
his
a
wife
scene
is
where he's gonna be talking to it. He's gonna be talking to his son. And it's like, you need to be better.
boy.
Be better,
Yeah.
boy.
No,
Or
he
girl.
has no, it's a boy. It's definitely a boy. But he has the more
Okay.
he has the look more of like please like like honey took the kids, the car, and like the house like mentality. It's, he looks like that dad you don't want to admit is your father. Uh so definitely recommend or definitely looking forward to Street Fighter. So and also just fighting games again, man. Because and Guilty Gear is gonna be coming to Game Pass, so I'll be able to play that. I've been missing fighting games, and Street Fighter looks really fun and has a lot of fun mechanics that I just want to play a fighting game again. I've been so deprived. Please, Mortal Kombat, where are you? I was supposed to get you like 2
One
years
thing I
ago.
want to add to it. One thing I want to add to Street Fighter 6 is something that makes me interested. And I'm not that big of a fighting person. I usually just hop in whenever I feel like it. Sometimes all it takes is just a character I really like has to be in the game, and I'll jump in. Like Hellboy. But I think the thing that really interests me with Street Fighter 6 is its campaign format. Actually, I mean, I don't know if this is confirmed, but if it is what I've been hearing about it is true, that sounds like a really cool format for a fighting game sort of single player story. Is the fact that you're just sort of like fighting these other people, building up your character and learning their moves potentially to help you out in the world or whatever. It's like to me that sounds like a really cool single player experience. It's like you're just on the street fighting other people, learning new moves and using it.
Yeah.
Like that's cool to me.
Pretty much what they've shown off. Like you start the opening level and you meet Luke and he kind of gives you his move set as just like the base format. But we've seen players like or later game like of your custom character doing Shoryukens and then a Sonic Boom, which are two moves from different characters. So it'll be very interesting. Just like how many of these moves can I like? Can I have Flash Kick and a Shoryuken? Can I do double uppercuts? So
I'm sorry, but I still can't get over the God of War comparison. I can't imagine, but when you're talking about Ryu, right? Is he the dad one?
no, that's Ken.
Or is it
Ryu
Ken
has
is
a
the dad?
beard, but Ken,
yeah,
Ken's
Ryu's
the
had a
father.
beard since 5.
Okay,
whatever.
no,
One of those
Ken,
two, like
no,
they're
Ryu
training
had
you for the move, but they do like they like do like a God of War ripoff, so you just hear like the God of War music in the background when they're teaching you, like blah, blah, like the chanting or some shit. That's all I can imagine.
Seth just really wanted an excuse to talk about God of War because it wasn't his game of the year.
I just want to make I want to turn I want to make my custom character Kratos in
You
Street
probably
Fighter.
can. I mean, from the customization that I saw on the online beta, you probably could. There's probably be people that do that. So that'll be fun making wacky versions. So that normally would be it for the podcast. This is definitely gonna get broken up into 2 parts, but instead of it's yeah,
This is our quest to get Drew to make a 3-hour podcast.
Oh, we're 5 minutes away from that.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
we're getting there.
We've been talking for a minute. This is probably going to be a two-parter. So, but instead of a fresh pick, because it's the end of the year, we are going to do our favorite fresh podcast episodes that we have recorded. So, I will go first with mine. Ironically, it is a podcast that neither you two were on. So sorry, but my favorite podcast of the year was the return of My Chemical Romance, a
That
podcast
was a
we
good
did
one.
with me, Randy, and my good friend Jonathan Drew Doster, also known as Doster. We did it after all three of us went and saw My Chemical Romance live on their return tour here in Nashville, and I love doing that one. Not just because my friend Doster is on it, and it's always fun to have new people, but because it was a music-based one, and there are not many opportunities I get to talk about music, and it was really fun. I still listen to the playlist I made of like the set list that was played that day. I love that one. It is actually one of our highest like viewed one, or I guess listened to ones on uh you know through Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So that helps it as well. But I love that one. That one was super fun, and it's always fun to talk about music. I don't have many opportunities to do so. Hopefully, in this next year, I'm going to try to find more ways to do more music based podcasts. Maybe even try to do like video game music. But we'll see. That's one of my hopes. But this
If
episode
you want
was
that to happen, you're gonna have to play Persona 5. All right.
Uh-huh.
fair enough. Fair enough.
On Game Pass.
Yeah,
It's
on
on
Game
Game
Pass.
Pass.
Yes, I have no excuse now.
Listen,
Okay, I'll
if
take
you
this.
could sit
Let me
through
say this.
Pokemon Scarlet, you can do it.
Pokemon Scarlet is significantly shorter. Let me say this.
That's also true.
I am almost done with Mass Effect 2. And I'm going to try to finish Mass Effect 2 before the year ends. At some point in 2023, I will start Persona 3. And if I get
Persona 3.
or Persona 5, sorry, I was thinking of
Persona 3 will be on Game
numbers.
Pass.
Yeah, Persona.
I mean, you could technically, yes.
No, but I will start Persona 5, and I will try to make my way through it. But my only problem is I will start it. But I'm going to wait at least until I finish Mass Effect 2, because I've been holding off that game for a while. Great game, by the way. Much better than 1. But yes, ultimately,
We should do a
the
podcast
story
on
is, yes, go listen to My Chemical Romance, or The Return of My Chemical Romance, and you can
And
check
you can
that.
listen to My Chemical Romance too.
You can listen to My Chemical Romance too,
It
but
will
you can
probably help with your experience.
yes, it will help you. Yeah, it will help your experience. And there is in that podcast, I believe there's a link to the set list because I made a playlist for that. So go listen to that. You can check that out right here on Spotify if you're listening to Spotify, or if you're watching this on YouTube, there should be a link down to our Anchor link, which can bring you to anywhere into Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you guys get your podcast. I'm gonna have to do that like signal thing, like I shout out my own show every time we do this. I just realized that. So, Seth, what was your favorite podcast this year?
Well, I just want to say real quick about like you talk about My Chemical Romance is like I think it's great that you get to diversify just more than just movies and shows and games
Yeah.
and stuff. And I know you've done books too before.
Have we?
So like there was one like I was looking through old podcasts and you talked about a
Oh,
book.
I talked about it. Yeah, I talked to. I like not like a full podcast on one though.
Oh,
So,
okay.
not that we won't do that in the future, but I have to read more books. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. But like I think that's great. And like although I don't know anything about like uh about My Chemical Romance, I am glad to see that like even though it's something out of your wheelhouse, it proved to be something as in out of your wheelhouse. I just mean like something you don't typically talk about on the show.
Yeah, out of the zone.
It's really great to see that has
Yeah.
such such success that you kind of took a risk and it paid off.
Yeah.
Really, really good to see. All right, enough back padding. My turn. So my my favorite podcast, I had to think about those because it's not just my own. It's ones I went and listened to like definitely a couple of others. Like I listened to your She-Hulk one, which is pretty good, especially considering that's a tough topic to talk about with like not controversy, just in general. Like it's tough to talk about things that's getting a lot of hate at the moment and be kind of fair to it.
Yeah.
So it's very that was a good one to listen to. But of course, I think a lot of our bias is going to show. It's going to be one that I was personally sat in on to record and I re-listened to. My favorite podcast this year, both to listen to and record, was Assassin's Creed Part 2 in review. That was the one where we reviewed Assassin's Creed 3 and 4. I always enjoy our discussions with everybody here. However, I feel like it, as great it is to talk about something we all love, I think it was very nice that my favorite part obviously was talking about AC3. Not only am it because like I admit I'm a bit too much of a defender of that game. But I love the diversity of opinions and how everyone kind of came into it about this game that's definitely not like a game of the year or flawless in any rate type of game, you know? Like this is not a game that we can just heap praise on. There's a lot of key issues, but there's also interesting good ideas. And we all kind of had like not only recording it, but just listening to everyone talk about it. It was so cool to see everyone's different perspectives on a game that's like really hard to pin down. I think those are my favorite discussions are the ones where it's like, it's not clearly very all that great, but it's not all that bad either. Like it's such a mixed bag. So that was one of my favorite discussions that we had on the podcast, especially since we got to follow. And then we did kind of have it pay off with like, we all kind of got to gush about AC4. So it still turned out to be something we got to like heap praise onto something we genuinely love. But I think AC3 was like just such a fun discussion topic for all of us.
Yeah.
So that was my personal favorite podcast of the year.
I agree. That was also a podcast where all of us, or at least like most of us, either replayed one of them or at the very least like we had been stewing up opinions about this game for a while. And I love your point about the fact that I love it when, it's always nice when we agree, but it makes for better content but in reality it makes for better discussion when we don't agree with each other because it makes it feel more, I don't know, impactful, and it's more interesting in the fact that like what are our reasonings for all this. So I definitely enjoyed that one. And I do want to say, even though Randy is not on this podcast, he did let me know that his favorite one to record was actually the one I thought you were going to pick, which was AC1. Or excuse me, the first time we did the Assassin's Creed series, which was like that was a while. That was a few podcasts before that one.
That was like in August, yeah.
Yeah, that was a while ago. But both of the Assassin's Creed series and also a podcast about the future of the Assassin's Creed can all be checked out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else you can get your podcast here and enjoy that. We definitely like our Assassin's Creed episodes, and that will not be the last one. So stay tuned for part 3. Robert, your turn. Last time I have to do that sponsorship thing.
Am I allowed to have the same one as Seth?
Yes, you are.
Because I pretty much agree with a lot of what Seth was saying. I think the conversation, I think it's the one that the conversation flowed the best in. Because I think, like he said, all of us had something to bring into the table. To where, like, there wasn't a whole lot that we didn't cover about the game. Like, we managed to cover everything in a pretty relatively coherent way. And it was also just fun to gush about AC4 again, because I haven't played these games since I was in high school. So it was nice to kind of revisit some of those memories that I had from like playing those games. And yeah, I think it was nice just to kind of have a conversation of everybody.
Yeah.
Because there's not like a lot of opportunities for all of us to kind of come together and talk about the same thing.
Yeah.
So like all of us having like a history of Assassin's Creed, it was easier to kind of carry that conversation.
Yeah, there are few podcasts where it actually is all four of us. But it was nice that we could at least do that one. So
Yeah.
Okay.
But my only
real quickly.
regret with that one is playing Dark Souls 3 during it and getting jump scared by a mimic.
Oh,
so
gee.
funny, which is always what
I
I
don't
tell
think
you.
we brought
Like,
that up during the podcast.
if you're gonna play something, like just make it either like something easy or something that like won't scare you. Missing back.
Jeez.
God.
Oh my god.
What were you gonna bring?
Okay, so since Robert wants to take that one, and I'm okay with that, Robert, I'll throw in mine. It's my other favorite podcast to record. It's technically not it's technically not a 2022 podcast, but I really enjoyed recording it nonetheless. It was the Zack Snyder's Justice League one that we did.
You're gonna shout
That
out
is probably my favorite. Oh my god.
Before we kind of
that was so much fun.
Yeah, that was actually really fun. That was also the only podcast where we recorded in an actual room together. Because we did the whole like.
I hope it's not the last one. I hope we get to do something like that again because that was so much fun.
Yeah, me too. I would love that. So honestly,
also Randy just wouldn't stop talking about
the mother's box.
What was it? What's his name? Yeah, Steppenwolf's mother's box.
God, Randy. In his defense. Yeah, that one. Okay, I guess. Yeah. Shoot, now I gotta figure out how to do this set because that one's not available. That one's on the old podcast.
Oh.
Honestly,
no.
I will consider if I have free time, I might re-upload that to the new one. That might be.
You absolutely should. That one's a great one.
That was a good one. There are a couple of the old ones that I might put on this, the rebrand. So
I remember really liking your guys' one on the Christopher Nolan movies.
Oh yeah, that was me with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was me with my friend.
Me? Oh no, wait, maybe that wasn't.
No, I think you were on that, Seth.
I was because like I'm trying to.
No, I don't think you was
because I feel like
No, wait. It was you. It was one you talked about Memento.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was.
Yeah, we talked. I talked.
Or was it? Oh no, I'm thinking of Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of Tarantino. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the Tarantino one.
Oh, so we did do the Nolan.
Yeah, you guys did.
Yeah, because we talked about Memento. We did Dark Knight, and we did Inception. I want to say Inception. Yeah, I think it was Inception. And I'm not sure if Tenet was out yet.
I think it was I think we were doing it because Tenet was coming out. I think I'm thinking of another good one, which me and my friend Nick did about Tarantino. So that's my bad. A lot of look, I'm on every one of these. These get backwards to me. It's not easy.
You're gonna have to, man. All these, every time Drew has to mention one of these, he has to bring it back now.
Shoot,
so we gotta just think of all the old
all the old ones. Well, also, I'm glad we referenced Nick because that is a little sneak peek for our first podcast of next year. So wink, wink at the camera that's not pointing at me right now. So, but that's enough about our own podcast and us self-indulging because we are already over 3 hours, and this is almost certainly going to be cut into 2 parts. So thanks for that, guys. Anyway,
I mean, okay, you had 6 categories to go over.
It
was going to happen.
Had 5. Seth had 2. Seth added more.
I added one more.
You let him add one more. You're the host.
Yeah, I definitely.
You can call executive override.
But it's a cool one. You can't lie. Come on, our best podcast of the year. It's a great way to look back on the year. Come on.
Yeah, because in my original, I didn't say surprise, and you're like, no, let's do surprise too, and then you said, so you added 2 technically. I'm not saying. I'm not saying they're bad suggestions. I'm just saying. Shouldn't be all my fault, even though this is my show,
double the content.
Yeah, so
double the hours, double the content.
Yeah.
So this just means more ad revenue.
Yeah, if I ever get money for that, but that's a different thing. Good thing Spotify doesn't listen to this far into the podcast. All right, we've been stalling for a while. Thank you all for listening. If you've made it this far, and as always, stay safe out there. Goodbye.